Myra lived in a small town where mornings felt slow and soft and where the river made a quiet sound behind the rows of simple houses. She worked in a small bookshop near the bus stop and most days looked the same in a calm way. She opened the shop early, wiped the dust from the shelves, and greeted customers with a polite smile. People often said she was gentle and patient, and Myra liked being known for that. She did not like attention and she did not like gossip. She kept her life simple and clean, and she tried to keep her heart peaceful too. Years ago her life was not peaceful at all. Years ago she was married to Ron and she believed the marriage would last forever. Ron had been kind in the beginning. He used to bring small gifts and talk about the future as if it was already waiting for them. He wanted a home full of laughter and children running around, and Myra wanted that too. She imagined a tiny pair of shoes near the door and school bags on the sofa and a family photo on the wall. She tried to hold on to that dream even when time passed and nothing changed. When months became years, Ron began to change. At first it was small things. He stopped asking how her day went. He stopped holding her hand when they walked outside. He started speaking in short, cold sentences. Myra noticed the change, but she still tried to fix it. She visited doctors and followed every suggestion. She took care of her health and followed plans with hope. Some days she felt strong and believed her life would turn around. Other days she cried silently at night so Ron would not hear. She did not want him to see her weak because she feared it would make him more distant. Ron did not stay patient. He began to blame Myra for everything even though she was trying her best. He spoke as if she had chosen this pain. He compared her to other women in the town who had babies, and he made jokes that were not funny. Myra tried to talk to him, but he would turn away or leave the room. The home that once felt warm became heavy and uncomfortable. Myra started to feel like a guest in her own house. Then one day Ron told her he was done. He did not even say it with sadness. He said it like a decision that had already been made long ago. Not long after that, Myra saw him with another woman named Lana. Lana had a loud laugh and a sharp way of speaking. She wore bright clothes and liked to be seen. People noticed them together quickly and the town began to talk. Myra tried to ignore the talk, but it reached her ears like smoke slipping under a door. She heard that Ron and Lana were happy and that Ron was moving on as if Myra had been nothing but a delay in his life. The divorce happened fast. Myra signed papers with shaking hands, but she did not beg. She did not want to hold someone who did not want her. She left the house with a small bag and moved into a small rented place near the river. She started working in the bookshop because she needed a fresh start. For a long time she felt empty, but she kept going. She watered plants outside her door. She fed stray cats when they came by. She learned to cook for one and not feel ashamed of it. She learned to sleep without hearing another person breathe beside her. After the divorce, the news came that Lana was expecting. The town buzzed with it like bees around sugar. People whispered that Ron got what he wanted, and some people even acted like Myra deserved what happened. Myra did not fight with anyone. She only held her head high and walked past them. She told herself she would not let anyone turn her into a bitter person. She still believed kindness was stronger than cruelty, even if life had been unfair to her. Years passed and Myra slowly began to feel like herself again. She was still quiet, but she was no longer broken. She laughed sometimes when a customer told a silly story. She enjoyed rainy afternoons when the shop was empty and the sound of rain tapped on the window. She found comfort in small moments, and that comfort became a new kind of strength. She stopped checking Ron's life. She stopped wondering what he was doing. She told herself that the past was a closed door and she did not need to stand there anymore. One afternoon Myra left work early to buy fruit from the market. The market was busy and noisy and full of colorful stalls. Sellers called out prices and children ran between people. Myra moved slowly and picked apples and oranges while thinking about what she would cook for dinner. She was focused on her list and did not notice the people behind her at first. Then she heard a voice that made her stomach tighten. It was Ron. The same voice she once knew so well. Myra turned slightly and saw him standing near a stall with Lana. Ron looked well-dressed and confident, like a man who wanted everyone to notice him. Lana stood beside him and her belly was round and clear under her dress. She looked close to having the baby. Ron's hand rested on her arm as if he was showing her off like a prize. Myra's heart jumped, but she forced her face to stay calm. She did not want them to see fear. She did not want them to feel powerful over her. She turned her body as if she would leave and hoped they would not approach. But Ron saw her and his mouth lifted into a smile that did not feel friendly. He took a step closer and spoke loudly enough for people nearby to hear. He wanted an audience, and Myra could tell. He wanted the moment to be public. "Well, well," Ron said. "Look who it is. Myra. Still living the quiet life, I guess." Myra kept her voice steady. "Hello," she said simply. She did not add more. She did not ask about his life. She did not offer warmth. She tried to turn away again. Ron stepped sideways to block her path. "You always were quiet," he said with a small laugh. "Some people stay the same forever." Lana looked Myra up and down with a small smile. "She looks tired," Lana said softly. "Maybe life is hard when you have no one." Myra felt heat rise in her chest, but she swallowed it down. She did not want to argue. She did not want to give them the reaction they wanted. She held her fruit bag tighter and tried to walk around them. Ron leaned forward like he was sharing a joke. "You know," he said, "life makes choices. Some people get blessings. Some people don't. Not everyone gets to be a mother." The words were cruel, but Ron said them like he was proud. Myra's eyes stung, but she refused to cry in front of him. She looked at the ground for a second, then lifted her face again. She was about to step away when a sudden sound cut through the busy noise of the market. Two small boys ran into the open space between stalls. They were around 6 or 7. Their hair was messy like they had been playing. Their cheeks were red from running. They looked around quickly, and then both of them saw Myra at the same time. Their faces lit up like a light turning on. The first boy ran straight to her and grabbed her hand. The second boy followed and hugged her side like he belonged there. People nearby slowed down and turned to look because the boys were so loud and happy. "Mum," the first boy called out with excitement. "Mum, there you are," the second boy said, smiling wide as if he had been searching for her. The market felt like it paused for a breath. Ron's smile disappeared. Lana's eyes widened. Ron stared at Myra like he could not believe what he was hearing. Lana's mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. Myra stood frozen for one moment because she did not expect this scene to happen in front of Ron and Lana. The boys held her like they trusted her completely. Their small hands were warm and steady. Myra looked down at them and her expression softened, not with fear but with something deeper, something protective. Ron took a step forward slowly, his voice lower now but full of shock. "What did they just call you?" he asked. Myra did not answer right away. She only looked at the boys and gently squeezed their hands. The boys looked up at her with the kind of love that could not be fake. The people around them watched quietly. Some were curious. Some were confused. Some were already forming stories in their minds. Myra finally lifted her eyes toward Ron. Her face was calm, but her heart was beating fast. Ron's words from a moment ago hung in the air, and now they felt small and weak. The scene in front of him did not match the picture he had carried for years. He had believed Myra would always be alone. He had believed he could hurt her with the same old pain whenever he wanted. But now two boys stood beside her calling her mum as if it was the most natural thing in the world, and Ron could not understand it at all, and the truth behind it was about to change everything for everyone standing there. Myra felt the small hands of the two boys holding her, and that touch gave her a quiet strength. The noise of the market slowly came back, but something in the air had changed. People were no longer just passing by. Many eyes were now watching this strange and emotional moment. Ron stood stiff like he had forgotten how to move, and Lana looked from the boys to Myra with a confused and worried face. Myra took a slow breath and gently pulled the boys a little closer to her as if she was protecting them from the eyes around. Ron cleared his throat and tried to speak again. His voice was not as sharp as before. It sounded unsure and almost nervous. He asked again what the boys had called her. Myra looked at him calmly and said they called her mum because that was what she was to them. Ron shook his head slowly as if he was trying to wake from a dream. He said that was not possible because he believed Myra had always been alone after the divorce. Lana's hand moved to her belly as if she needed something to hold on to. Myra did not raise her voice. She did not smile with pride either. She simply spoke the truth in a soft way. She said that life does not always look the same from the outside and that some of the most important things in her life had happened quietly. Ron did not like that answer. He wanted details. He wanted to understand how the woman he once mocked could now stand in front of him with two boys who loved her. The first boy tugged at Myra's sleeve and looked up at her. He asked if they could go home soon because he was hungry. The second boy nodded quickly and said he wanted to help her cook. Myra smiled at them and told them it would be soon. The way she spoke to them was warm and gentle and full of care. It was clear to anyone watching that this was not an act. This was real. Ron watched this with growing confusion. He remembered Myra from years ago as quiet and sad. He never imagined her as someone who could give this kind of love. He felt something twist inside him, but he did not know what to call it. Lana shifted uncomfortably beside him. She had expected Myra to be weak and broken. She did not expect to see a calm woman who looked like she had found a new kind of happiness. Ron asked where the boys came from. Myra took a breath and then told him that a few years after the divorce she had met a woman in the town clinic who was struggling. That woman had two small boys and no support. Life had been very hard for her and she was tired and afraid. Myra had helped her with small things at first, like bringing food and watching the boys. Over time the woman trusted Myra more than anyone else. She saw how gentle and caring Myra was with the children. When the woman became very weak, she made a hard choice. She asked Myra to take care of the boys if anything happened to her. Myra agreed with tears in her eyes because she already loved them like her own. The woman passed away not long after and the boys stayed with Myra. There were papers and legal steps and it was not easy, but Myra never gave up. She wanted to give the boys a safe and loving home. She learned how to pack school lunches and help with homework. She learned how to calm them when they were scared at night. Slowly the boys began to call her Mum because to them that was what she was. She was the person who stayed. She was the person who listened. She was the person who loved them without limits. Ron listened with a tight face. He did not interrupt. He could not. The story was not what he expected. He had thought Myra had no family. He had thought she was alone. But now he saw that she had built something real and strong out of quiet care. Lana did not like what she was hearing. She crossed her arms and looked away as if she did not want to believe it. The boys looked up at Myra again and asked if they could get some sweets later. Myra laughed softly and said they would see. That small moment of laughter felt warm in the middle of the heavy air. Some people in the market smiled. Others shook their heads at Ron because they could feel the truth of the situation even if they did not know the full story. Ron finally spoke again. His voice was slower now. He said he never knew any of this. Myra nodded and said she never felt the need to tell him. She said the past was over and she had moved on. Ron looked down at the ground. The words he had said earlier about blessings now sounded empty. He had believed that only one kind of family mattered. Now he saw that love could take many forms. Lana stepped forward and tried to say something, but her words came out awkward. She said that she and Ron were starting their own family. Myra looked at her with calm eyes and said she hoped the baby would be healthy and loved. There was no anger in her voice. Only honesty. Lana did not know how to react to that. She had expected bitterness. She had expected jealousy. She did not expect kindness. The boys stood close to Myra and one of them leaned against her leg. That simple act showed where their heart was. Ron watched that too and something inside him felt heavy. He remembered how he had left Myra without looking back. He remembered how he had blamed her for things she could not control. Now he saw her standing strong with two children who loved her deeply and he did not know what to do with that sight. Myra told Ron that she had forgiven him long ago because holding anger was too painful. She said she did not need his approval or his regret. She was happy in her own way. Ron nodded slowly. He did not trust his voice anymore. The market noise continued around them, but for Ron the world felt quieter and louder at the same time. The boys asked again if they could go home. Myra said yes and took their hands. She turned slightly away from Ron and Lana. Before she left, Ron called her name. She looked back. Ron said he was sorry. The words were simple and maybe late, but they were real. Myra looked at him for a long moment and then nodded. She did not need more than that. As Myra walked away with the boys, she felt a mix of emotions, but mostly she felt peace. The past no longer had power over her. The boys talked happily about what they wanted to eat and what game they would play later. Their voices were full of life, and that life filled Myra's heart. Ron and Lana stood in the market and watched them go. Lana did not say anything. Ron did not either. The scene they had just seen was not something they could forget. It had shown them a truth that could not be taken back. Love was not only about what one could create, but also about what one could give. Myra and the boys disappeared into the crowd, and the moment ended, but its impact stayed behind. People went back to their shopping, but some of them would remember that scene for a long time. It was not loud or dramatic. It was quiet and deep. It was about a woman who had been hurt but chose to love again in a different way. That day Myra did not feel small. She felt whole. The boys laughed as they walked, and she laughed with them. Whatever the future held, she knew she was not alone, and that was more than enough. After the market day, life slowly returned to its normal pace, but something inside Ron did not return to how it was before. He went home with Lana, but his mind stayed in the market with Myra and the two boys. He tried to talk to Lana, but every time he opened his mouth he saw the way the boys held Myra's hands and called her mum. That picture would not leave him. Lana noticed his quiet mood and felt uneasy. She wanted him to focus on her and the baby, but she could tell his thoughts were far away. Myra, on the other hand, went home with the boys and made a simple meal. They talked about school and friends and the funny things they had seen at the market. Myra listened with care and smiled. When they finished eating, they helped clean the table and then sat on the floor to play. The house felt warm and full of soft noise. Myra felt grateful for this life. She did not think about Ron anymore. She was only present with the two young hearts that depended on her. That night when the boys were asleep, Myra sat by the window and looked at the quiet street. She thought about the long path she had walked. From a broken marriage to a calm home filled with laughter. It was not the life she had once planned, but it was the life she loved. She whispered a small thank you to herself for not giving up when everything felt lost. Days passed and Ron began to feel restless. He tried to push the memory away, but it kept coming back. He started to realize that he had been unfair to Myra. He had blamed her for something that was never her choice. He had mocked her pain. Now he saw how strong she had become. This made him feel small and confused. Lana noticed that he was distant and began to worry that she was losing him in some way. One afternoon, Ron found himself walking near the bookshop where Myra worked. He told himself it was just a walk, but deep inside he knew he wanted to see her again. He stood outside the shop for a moment before stepping in. The smell of old books and paper filled the air. Myra was behind the counter arranging a stack of books. When she saw Ron, she looked surprised but not afraid. She greeted him in a calm way. Ron did not know what to say at first. He felt awkward, like a guest in a place he no longer belonged. He finally said he just wanted to check how she was doing. Myra nodded and said she was fine. She said the boys were doing well in school and they were excited about a small school trip coming soon. Ron listened quietly. He did not interrupt. He could hear how much love was in her voice when she spoke about them. Ron asked if he could see the boys again. Myra thought for a moment and then said they would come to the shop after school. She said there was nothing to hide. Ron waited. When the boys arrived, they ran to Myra with the same bright energy. Ron watched from a distance at first. He noticed how Myra knelt down to their level and spoke gently. He noticed how they smiled at her like she was their whole world. Myra introduced Ron to the boys. She said he was someone she knew from the past. The boys were polite and curious. They did not feel any fear. Ron felt a strange warmth and sadness at the same time. He realized he had never seen this side of Myra before. He had been too focused on what he wanted to notice what she could give. As days went on, Ron came to the shop more often. Sometimes he brought small gifts for the boys, like storybooks or simple toys. Myra did not stop him, but she also did not encourage him too much. She kept a healthy distance. Lana did not like this at all. She began to feel jealous and worried. She did not understand why Ron cared so much about Myra's life now when he had chosen to leave her. One evening Lana asked Ron why he kept going to see Myra. Ron struggled to explain. He said he just wanted to understand what he had lost. Lana felt hurt and angry. She reminded him that they were starting their own family. Ron nodded, but inside he felt torn. He could not change the past, but he could not ignore the truth he had seen. Myra noticed the change in Ron too. She saw that he was trying to be kinder. But she did not let it confuse her. She had built a new life and she was not willing to break it for old memories. She focused on the boys and on her work. She kept her heart steady. One afternoon Myra took the boys to the park. They played on the swings and laughed loudly. Ron happened to be there with Lana. The meeting felt uncomfortable but also honest. The boys ran around happily and did not sense the tension. Myra sat on a bench and watched them. Lana sat beside Ron and looked at Myra from a distance. There was no anger in Myra's eyes. Only calm. Ron looked at Lana and then at Myra. He realized that love was not something to be owned. It was something to be shared and cared for. He had once thought love meant control and pride. Now he saw that love meant patience and kindness. The boys came running back to Myra and hugged her. Ron saw that and felt a quiet respect grow in his heart. He knew he could never take that away from her. He knew Myra had found something real. As the sun went down, Myra and the boys left the park. Ron and Lana stayed behind. Lana was silent. Ron was thoughtful. The future felt uncertain for them but clear for Myra. She walked home holding the hands of the two boys who trusted her with everything. That night Myra tucked the boys into bed and read them a story. Their eyes slowly closed and their breathing became soft. Myra smiled and turned off the light. She sat in the quiet room and felt peace wrap around her. The past no longer had power over her. The present was full of love. And the future was waiting gently without fear. Time moved forward quietly after everything that had happened. The days did not feel heavy anymore for Myra. They felt full. Every morning she woke up to the sound of the boys talking and laughing. They argued about small things like who would use the bathroom first or who would get the bigger slice of bread. These small moments made the house feel alive. Myra enjoyed them more than she could ever explain. This was the family she had built with patience and love. The boys grew more confident and happier with each passing day. They did well in school and always rushed home to tell Myra about what they had learned. Myra listened with pride and gentle smiles. She helped them with their work and praised them when they tried their best. She did not care if they made mistakes. She only cared that they kept trying. The boys knew that no matter what happened, Myra would always be there for them. Ron still came to the bookshop sometimes, but he no longer tried to step into Myra's personal life. He spoke kindly and kept his words simple. He had accepted that Myra's life was no longer tied to his. He had seen the way she loved the boys and he respected that. Lana noticed this change too. She still felt unsure sometimes, but she began to understand that Ron's visits were not about old feelings but about learning from the past. One day Ron met Myra outside the shop. He said he wanted to thank her. Myra looked surprised, but she listened. Ron said that seeing her with the boys had changed how he thought about many things. He said he had learned that family was not only about one kind of story. It was about love and care and showing up every day. Myra nodded. She did not need his thanks, but she accepted his honesty. Lana gave birth to a healthy baby soon after. Ron was there and he felt joy in a way he had not felt before. But this time his joy was calmer. He did not feel proud in a loud way. He felt grateful in a quiet way. He understood now that life did not follow one straight path. It had many turns and each one taught something new. Myra heard the news from someone in the town and she felt happy for them. She hoped the child would grow in a loving home. She did not feel jealousy or sadness. She had her own family to care for and that was enough. The boys continued to grow and learn. They helped Myra in the shop on weekends by arranging books and greeting customers. People in the town came to know them and often smiled when they saw the small family together. The old gossip faded away. What remained was a simple truth. Myra was not alone. She was strong and loved. One afternoon the boys brought home a drawing from school. It showed 3 figures holding hands under a bright sun. They told Myra it was their family. Myra felt her eyes fill with tears. She hugged them tightly and thanked them. In that moment she knew that everything she had gone through had led her to this happiness. Ron saw the drawing one day when he visited the shop. He smiled and said it was beautiful. Myra thanked him. There was no pain in their words now. Only calm respect. As years passed, the boys grew taller and wiser. They still called Myra Mum, and she still answered with love. The house near the river remained full of warmth and laughter. Myra often sat by the window at night and thought about how far she had come. She no longer felt like someone who had lost. She felt like someone who had found something special. Ron and Lana focused on their own family. They learned their own lessons and made their own mistakes. Life moved on for everyone, but Myra's story remained a quiet example of strength. In the end, it was not about the past or the hurt. It was about the love that stayed. And that love was more than enough.